Hey parents, Dr. Serrano again. This is week 3, and today we're talking about movement that matters to your brain. In week 1, we talked about a sympathetic stress response. Week 2, we talked about how that stress response, that tonality of the nervous system starts to get set at a pretty young age. And this week, what I want to do is we can get out of that. And we can start rewiring the brain to a more parasympathetic response. And the best way to do that is through movement that rewires the brain. So we already know on week 1 that we're looking at our child before we actually start to go learn. In week 2, we said, hey, if the child is amped up, if they're not ready to learn, if there's some dysregulation going on, then we want to make sure that we have some way or some tool to calm them down. We use breath work for that. This week, what I would suggest is that the tool that I'm going to give you, use this throughout the day. And what happens is this: when you have an area of your body that's not moving properly or not moving at all because you're sitting there, your brain literally starts to shut down. They did a study with functional MRIs where they would put a cast on somebody's arm, then they would look at the brain imaging, and the area that controls the arm starts to shut down. Your brain stops sending nutrients and oxygen there, so it starts to kind of dim the lights in the brain. What happens is, as soon as they took the arm off, or the cast off the arm, and they start moving it, guess what happens to the brain? It starts to send more nutrient, lights up like a Christmas tree on this functional MRI. And that's awesome. But one of the best things you can do to actually rewire the brain, to get the brain more active for learning, in a good way active, not in a overactivity active, is to do patterns of movement that are going to involve both sides of the brain. We call them cross-crawl type of movements. So one of those things could literally be crawling on the floor, where you're using your left arm and right leg. Another one you can do is you take a timer, and let's say you've been sitting for 45 minutes, which is kind of like the max that I would probably sit down and do some work. There's a lot of research around that, between 30 and 45 minutes. It's kind of max time for the brain before you take a little break. And what you're gonna do is you can literally put a 30-second timer on, or a minute timer, and you can do some marching where you're lifting up your left arm and right leg, and you do some marching like that. These are all types of patterns, cross-crawl patterns, where you're using the left side and the right side of your brain, and there's that communication that's happening between both sides, which lights up the brain and gets it prepped for learning again. So that's week 3. Use movement that rewires your brain to help your learner.